going to be that. And then so we're going on to the next question. So the next question says, when quantity demanded decreases in response to a change in price, what happens? And so, we know that basically, okay, so let's read through the answer choices. So 1 says the demand curve shifts to the right. 2 says the demand curve shifts to the left. 3 says there's a movement down the demand curve, down along the demand curve. 4 says there's a movement up along the demand curve. And 5 says the supply curve shifts to the right. And so what we're dealing with here is changes in quantity demanded. And so we know that there are either one of two things. There's either going to be price as a shift along the curve, or there's going to be demand determinants. And so those are things that shift the curve overall. And that is the big two things that we're talking about, right? So if we can draw this on the right, oops, what's going on here? I guess it's not like us draw. Turn on draw. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Okay, there we go. So we can either have our demand curve here, and we can say we're shifting somewhere from along this curve. So if price is high, we have that demand, quantity demanded. If price decreases, we would have a shift along the demand curve, right? Or we can have a shift of the entire demand curve. And so that's something like this if we shift to the right, or we can shift to the left, right? So basically, what does a change in price result in? And so we know that changes in any of the demand determinants, whether it be prices of a substitute, prices of a complement, prices, whether it be income change or something like that, those are going to shift the overall demand curve, and that's going to be what we see on the right. However, a change in quantity demanded relative to price, that's simply a shift along the demand curve, because as according to the law of demand, the only thing that the demand curve really depicts is the relationship between price and quantity demanded. So if something's changing, you're just moving along the curve because that's the relationship depicted on the curve. And so with that in mind, what we know is that if quantity demanded decreases in response to a change in price, that means you're going from a high quantity demanded on the right to a low quantity demanded on the left, something like this. What you're going to see is that price has actually increased. We're moving up along the demand curve, and that's going to be an increase in price. And so the correct answer here is a movement up along the demand curve, answer choice 4, and that is what happens when quantity demanded decreases in response to a change in price. So keep this relationship in mind. This should be a pretty straightforward question for us. So taking a look at the answer choices, it says, taking a look at the previous tutor's answer, they said 4 as well. There's a movement up along the demand curve, and they said a change in the price of a good leads to an inverse change in quantity demanded according to the law of demand that asserts that a decrease in price leads to an increase in quantity demanded of a good or service, and an increase in price leads to a decrease, provided all other factors that influence demand remain constant. Quantity demanded is a function of price. The change in quantity demanded is represented by a movement along the demand curve and not a shift, as it is merely a shift from one price to another, followed by a shift in the consumer bundle due to a change in the purchasing power of the consumer. A change in price that causes the quantity demanded to decrease will lead to a movement in the upward direction along the demand curve. So yeah, pretty good. Kind of just many explanations for the same relationship. Maybe it could have been a little bit shorter, but otherwise this answer covers all the reasons why we would see this relationship between price and demand, quantity demanded. It's a good answer.